Hi, this is Michael Adams of Religion Dystopia. On the 19th of December 2017 to the 21st of this is Michael Adams of Religion Dystopia. My son and I were attacked by demons, spiritually attacked. I saw one, took some photos from my cell phone while we were being attacked, and I rebuked them. My son particularly got sick. He was white. Really pale white, never seen anything like it. The next day, the doctors, they couldn't figure out what it was. They gave him a prescription saying that maybe he needed to get his tonsils taken out. Go get his x-rays. Anyways, he got better 2 days later and went to school. Although we'd had several other attacks, actually, but it subsided. Actually, what you're looking at are images of demonic entities, huge entities, over my neighbor's garage that day, the 19th was the first attack. So what I recommend to do is put this on pause so you can look at it better. You can see the faces. Really strange looking face right there, like a woman with crazy hair or something, like a witch. And just people, other people. And by the way, those aren't trees. They look like trees, but they're not trees. They're just, you can go to my Facebook page. I put an information box, and that would be the YouTube. And you can go there to get better images. The best I could to help you see it. Yeah, it was a very bizarre, very stressful time. Could not sleep for 2 nights. A lot of prayers, a lot of cleansing of the house, using oils. Things have subsided. I've grown a lot in my faith in the Lord and the power and authority of Jesus Christ. I strongly believe at this point there's absolutely no way to convince me that Bigfoot is an animal. And a lot of these demons are, that's what they are, they're demons. If you look real closely in this image, there's like huge entity. There's one on the right-hand corner. There's one in the middle there, a huge head there. That huge head is the one, I believe that's the one that really tried to scare me. You'll see here this one. These images are the next morning, which would be the 20th. On the 21st, that morning, that's when my neighbor saw the shadow entity, and I heard it walking around my son's window when I rebuked it at 4 in the morning. I believe that witchcraft and Satanism is involved with this. They're very upset with me exposing the Patterson film for what it was. It was just a gigantic, wicked, satanic sacrificial ritual, blood ritual. And so, yeah, I think the devil and his minions and these demonic entities, along with witches and Satan, just took it to attack me. And I don't think this is going to be the last, because I'm standing up for the Lord and the truth, and for the innocent, and for God's people, and for my Lord, my Lord and Savior. It's just, what's right. And, these people that, they sacrifice innocent children and all that, and they think it's okay so they can see these things. And I just think it's wrong. And these things are ruining, these things are all about death, not life. God is life. He's the light. These things are about darkness and about death. And if you look real closely, you can see a different faces and floating heads. You'll even see a owl, of all things. That's one of those higher, because demonic entities. You'll see it in the middle there, a little to the left. That's right there. You can see it circled in there. And there's a couple other entities there too. Yeah, they really threw everything at us, didn't they? So anyways, All praise and glory to Jesus Christ, our King of Kings, our Lord of Lords, our Saviors, on this Christmas Eve, soon to be Christmas Day. And, let's remember who He is for real. He's our God, He's our King. He created us and He'll save us. And I just want you to really look closely at these things and realize that it really is a spiritual warfare out there for their soul. And you will go to hell. You'll spend eternity with these things if you reject Jesus. Please believe.
Can't offer you any solution to permanently stopping drinking or smoking or anything else for that matter. It's just a brutal reality. The only thing that's going to help you at this stage is having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and it's a tough, brutal road. Which once you get involved in this struggle, it is a day-to-day thing. So anyway, I'm attempting to quit drinking, and needless to say, once I do, I'm not drinking. I haven't drank in years. I'm not talking about drinking. 14, 15 years. I don't know how long it's been now. Anyways, smoking. And so, of course, the devil is throwing already automatically. You would not. It's amazing how it's. You think that the demon and the devil's out there and the demons would give me just the slightest break, even an hour. An hour? No. First thing that happens within an hour, of me making basically my personal declaration. It wasn't to anyone in particular. I guess it was to my son. I guess the lamp and the kitchen stops working, right? And then my son's mother, who's completely demonized, if there ever was a person. God, my skin crawls seeing her. And the more I see her, the more I realize what that poor woman has to deal with and what she's got going on in her. And, so she shows up late, an hour late. Man, like it's no big deal, yeah. And she's all dressed up like she's like some Russian spy. Out to go home around. And, the thing is, she just really doesn't care. And you just see it in her eyes. And I'm like, listen, I want next month's schedule. I'm just so annoyed at her at this point because, she's supposed to be there an hour earlier and she just doesn't care. And, of course, the devil takes that advantage of that. And so, I'm blasting her and blasting the demons in her. That you just see it in her eyes. You know what I mean? There's that look about her. You see the ha, 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 ha. The look of the demons in her. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, God. Is this really what I'm going to have to go through? And, and I'm sorry for the dramatics, the drama, folks. I really am. If, of all people, I'm the one that's sorry about it. Because I'm the one that's living. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm sharing this for you only because, because it's my therapy, to be honest with you, and I get a chance to share it with other people, and it is therapy for me, and I know that I'm not alone in this struggle. I know that there are tens of thousands and probably millions and probably billions of folks out there on the plane of our existence that are going through similar things. And, it's just like, well, instead of like going to AA meetings at this point, which I know are just useless, in fact, are just fizzling out. It's going to be the new religion of the last century. Just glorify Bill Wilson. Turns out he's a big fraud and womanizer. And they really lifted this guy up, and he was nothing. By the way, came from my, well, they started it in my state, at least, allegedly. Back to New York, of course, and the Rockefellers had to be involved in that, and all the other high witches over there. But but the thing was, this realization is that no matter what man does, with all his quote unquote solutions, they're just really what they are. They're quote unquote band-aids or placards or walls, thin veneers, walls to hide the truth of what's really going on, which is witchcraft, sorcery, Satanism, Luciferianism, the true battle, which is they hate Jesus, they hate the true living God, they don't want nothing to do with it. They're demonized, they're demon possessed, they know they're going to hell.
All right. Sorry about the delay. See, people come and gone and all that kind of stuff. I just played a couple little short things of my videos of the past. It says here, Bono was fine. I thought we were going to do the show on Wednesday. No. Huh? No. No. Okay. So I don't know what to say. Send them a link. But we did agree on it to be today. Had a very interesting conversation with hopefully today at 5 p.m. your time. Show has started. So, anyways, we talked till like 12:30 last night. So, it's easy to forget things. I'm not the priority in this world. I know, or should I be? Anyways, we'll stop sharing this thing. So here's me. Hey, it is super duper hot. I probably offended 20 people already. So anyways, who's here? Hey, hi Cheyenne. Hey, Captain Hook. Hey, nice one. Nice wee, but nah. I see entities in every picture I've examined. They seem to be everywhere, but especially in wooded areas, and maybe they are just easier to see there. Not as Bigfoot, but all kinds of beings. Hey, tinfoil thoughts. Hiya. Haven't seen you in a while. Post silly, hey. And who was Bono? Well, hopefully you'll find out. Or find out if it's going to still do it or not today. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Can we pick another day? Sure we can. Sure we can. Will work for you. things you got to go through. That's all right. Maybe I could share some of my experiences. Oh, I feel super hot. So anyways, that was a couple of images. Excuse me, a couple of videos I did. That must be 2 years ago now. I don't know how much I've changed since then, to be honest with you. So as what my experience has been dealing with the spiritual realm. And the many, many pictures I've taken. I guess Tuesday at 4 my time. Sure, we can. Sure. We can do that. Sure, we can do that. Sure, we can do that. We can do that. Tuesday at 4. Nothing like live internet radio. It is. I enjoyed our conversation last night. I believe we have a little. I believe we will do some good. Doing a show or two together. So anyways, looks like Bono is not going to do the thing. Who's Bono? Bono is a well-known, I guess, starting to become a well-known public figure in the Bigfoot community. He had a weekly show on the internet for a long time. I think it's called The Tavern. I think, and then he also, and then the Mojo. Mojo. We call him, there's something about Mojo. I believe he was on a couple shows on television as well. One of these Bigfoot, experts. And what is the thing about Bono is, after we talked to him last night, is that he's come to the same conclusion as I have and many others who get this serious about this. That we're dealing with spirits and not some kind of flesh and blood entity. So it should be interesting, to say the least. The first video that you saw there was basically, if you did watch it or if you will watch it, obviously is about some of the images of the entities that attacked me spiritually in December 2017. So maybe we should talk about 2017 and my journey. Yes, I am not the well-known Bono Russell. Not at all. I'm just an average Joe that most people can't stand listening to, or one of us do. So I'm assuming that Tuesday is when Bono is going to actually join us. Hey, Joni. So I guess you're stuck stuck with me. Sorry about that. Sorry about it. I hope you're not too disappointed. What is what is. I mean, we talked last night. We did agree about it to do it today, but then again, we talked until 12:30 at night, and I imagine he's pretty just tired. So no big deal. It was good for both of us to actually touch bases. We've known about each other on and off for a while now, and I think he started responding to me and being receptive to my message at the moment he finally realized himself that a lot of what he was going through when it came to the Bigfoot research was nothing but spiritual in nature. But I want him to share his story, and he's got some very interesting stories to share with you. He also knows a lot of folks in the Bigfoot community, some folks that I know, and some people that I don't know, that other people know. They're a little more well known. So, but the biggest thing is to share his story and what he has come to, as far as the conclusion of what the answer is to all this. So, I guess people like to hear their people's experience and testimony. As I look at some of the images and the entities that I filmed, well, Bigfoot research. And I don't know if I want to look at that or not. Maybe I'll share some of the images down the road here. I'm going to stop looking at this. So I'm sorry you're stuck looking at my ugly face. So, 2017, my journey, my story. Wasn't supposed to go down this road, but I think you might find this interesting anyways. Even though it's me. 2017. This interesting anyways. What the heck? All right. You might find this interesting anyways. So 2017, in the beginning of 2017, I was having a great struggle with my faith and the Lord. Sure, I'm sorry I didn't happy. Sorry, it didn't happen today. Looking forward to Tuesday. Me too. But it's all good, bro. It's all good. My friend. I think after last night, I could say I'm confident that Bono is my friend. So, anyways, so yeah. So I was having struggles with my faith, and then Jesus, I was having struggles with life and the whole thing and the whole meaning of things. And I decided to take on the most sacrilege, most mocked, made fun of topic, and the truther community. That turned out to be Bigfoot. And my goal was to prove to the whole world that it was nothing more than a government psyop, which, by the way, a huge part of it is. Little did I know what I was about to get myself into. I do believe God's hand was involved in all this too, for in the end, my faith in my Lord and Savior is strengthened beyond anything that would have happened if I went to church for 50 years, had a PhD in theology and in particular biblical studies, and that I memorized every single verse in the Bible. Or what happened in the course of that year and a half, 2 years actually. And in particular, the certain climatic points have changed my life forever. And that's the reason why now I'm still interested in the topic, because I know the reality of it. Anyways, Crypto PSTD. Brother, I forgot your name already. We haven't talked so long, we need to start talking again. I noticed that a lot of the folks that I was interacting, the same thing, just like the flat earth. But I was interacting with Bigfoot, the community 2 years ago. And they're on the rise as far as popularity, and I'm not. Which, praise the Lord, that is the case. Anyways, Crypto PSTD, he's doing a show and what he had an experience. And we did his very first show was about his experience that he had with a Bigfoot in his front yard and with a gut pile after gutting a deer, and then one of these things come out and eat his gut pile or take it away and then show its ugly face to him. I didn't question him at this point because I wanted to know the truth about things. I thought in the beginning of 2017 that it was all just a joke, that the government just had this, like so many other psychological operations, another element of MK Ultra, that maybe it really was just a guy in a suit. But I decided I was really going to delve deep into the research. If you're ever going to know anything, the truth about much of anything, you better spend more than a couple evenings or a couple weekends or even a month of watching videos. That's just the way it goes. Thank you, Post Silly. Thank you. You want to hear my story. My story is the most bizarre story you can ever gonna imagine. You stick around long enough, and I can stick around long enough to get it presented to you. So, started out with crypto PT or post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever it is, right? In his story. Then next thing you know, I'm getting involved with other guys. We'll just say Mark from down in Florida is well known. And then starting to learn about the political dynamics right away within the Bigfoot community. When it talks to all the big names of the Bigfoot community. I hooked up with M.K. Davis. We do a series of 20 plus shows together, which you can listen to most of it. I also start interacting with folks like Kat Hansen, Duke, and a few others. And so the first 6 months, I was out to try to disprove this whole thing. I learned everything I possibly could that a man could in such that period of time about what Bigfoot is. I started learning about tree structures, the environment that you might find these things in. I was thoroughly convinced that these things were, if they were real, possibly could be some type of humanoid animal, that kind of thing. In fact, for a while there, I really wanted it to be. Who doesn't want it to be real? Who doesn't want it not to be something in flesh and blood? It makes the life a lot more interesting if it was, right? And not so disturbing at the same time. Same token. So, as I'm talking to all these folks and learning everything I can, interacting with guys like Mark over there at Colorado Bigfoot and everything else, I know that some of these people probably have forgotten even by now, because we're talking 2 years ago, and outside of maybe M.K. Davis and a few other folks locally in Ohio, and that called themselves Bigfoot researchers, I really didn't develop any deep, meaningful kind of relationships. And when you talk about things like flat Earth, and you talk about other things I researched before, that always came up. And of course, many of folks is based on their own ignorance of the subject. When we talk about the heliocentric model, the geocentric model, the inability to prove anything when it comes to the heliocentric model, and then all the what is and NASA. Those who don't study such a thing become very well, they're very, you know, they find it a joke, just like Bigfoot. So I got, basically in a course of a couple years, I got hit with a couple heavy whammies again, that being the flat Earth, and all the time I spent there and coming to the conclusions that I came with, and then now Bigfoot, which I never was interested in, never in Bigfoot, wasn't. Although I did have a picture of Bigfoot in my room as a child back in the 70s. It was more of just a picture and it didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It was a still from a movie. Could have been an animal. I don't know. There was never anybody to talk. No one ever talked to me ever about Bigfoot. No, that I never show any interest in it. No one ever talked to me about Bigfoot. 6 months into it, I finally decided, okay, I'm going to start doing my own field research. And this is what happened. I live in what's called the Oak Openings region in Northwest Ohio. It's a very special region. Very diverse, wet mosaic region. But at one time, had more biomass, considering we're talking now about animals, and throughout Northwest Ohio and all of Southeast Michigan, than all of Alaska, they said. There were so many birds, waterfowl, etc. They had their own regional woodland bison that now is extinct that lived here. We're talking only 150 years ago. It's all gone. Native parakeet, etc. So it's very special. There's still some very special places. So I went to what's called Oak Openings Park. I said, you know what? I'm going to go look for these tree structures. And they talk about X structures and TP structures, and tree lanes and all this stuff. So I pull over the side of the road, and it's, of course, it's July, so there's a lot of heavy foliage. I'm with my son because, you know, I figure I'd spend 5 minutes seeing if there's anything like a tree structure, and then I go take my son to the park. They have like a playground. That's pretty cool. Now we're talking about my son that it's 2017 would have been 4 years old. And I wasn't thinking that there would be any issue at all. I walk in. Okay, so I pull the side of the road. This should be going south. And so we walk into the woods, and less than half a minute, I'm right under a TP structure, which if you look, there's images that I shared throughout my videos of this. I think I even did a video of it. Don't know if I still have it or not. And this is a big TP structure. And when you had all these different trees lean around and spoke around a main tree, and it was pretty tall because I was able to walk under it. In fact, I probably could have had a 8 foot, 9 foot tall dude walk under it with no problem. And my son, so I started taking pictures of it. Weird enough in its own right, because people talk about it, you know, they spend all this time and they'll spend hours in the woods, half an hour, in which they got to hike 10 miles in the forest to find these things. And I get led to a place that literally less than, I mean, we're not talking more than 10, 15 yards into the woods from the side of the road. There's a teepee structure. My first time. That's a big deal. Maybe for those who have never done Bigfoot or field research, you don't recognize how bizarre the situation is, but it was a big deal. And it has been that way ever since. I don't have to work very hard to find tree structures. And I don't believe anybody else has to either. But from that moment on, the moment I went under that tree structure, that teepee structure, things started getting weird. Now, I did drive about 15 miles west of where I live. But this stuff came home with me. I start going, and so you know what? Well, maybe there's something around town. I found in 2017 what would have been called a Bigfoot nest in a ravine. What are the other folks? What else do they call ravines? I wish I had somebody with me here to join on with this to help. But howler, folks down south and going, you know, like Missouri and all that kind of stuff, they would call it a howler. Of course, this ravine was actually, it parted a cemetery right down the middle. And this howler with the creek, the small stream led into the main creek that goes through my town, 10 Mile Creek. And then there's another creek from the north side of 10 Mile Creek where there's another cemetery. So there's a really big cemetery in my town, which is not very unique. Most towns throughout the Midwest, and any town that's you know, going on 100 years more is going to have a substantial cemetery. Now there's two cemeteries. The Bigfoot nest, and what I mean by that is you have this howler, and something decided to take a big old tree, it was an old oak tree, and break it about 3 feet above the roots on ground line, soil line, and throw it right into that ravine. And I remember clearly, I even have pictures of it in some of my videos. Cheyenne, Bigfoot's real. But Bigfoot's not what people say it is. Bigfoot's a spirit, but we'll go on for that. For now, we'll just don't worry about it. So, something took this big mature oak and broke it at the base. I remember looking at that tree, and there was no severe beetle damage or any other bug damage. Something literally, and I remember at the base of the tree, it was still fresh, relatively fresh, because it had to have happened within that summer or prior to that summer. Something broke that tree at the base, cracked it, and threw it, directed it at least, into the ravine. In that tree and those branches, I started filming things. And actually, that'd be a good idea to show you something of the things I filmed in that ravine. Some of you have already seen it, but this will give you some idea, at least some idea, that Mike Adams is not totally buffaloing you, nor is it really all that interesting to me to be liked by anybody based on this. What I really would like is some beautiful woman to show up, come to my life, and we get and just live the rest of our lives together, and I could make love to her as often as possible, because everything else really don't mean that much. But that's the way it goes. Outside of Jesus, of course. Jesus, of course, means something to me, because I know he's real, and it's not religion. Now I got to find this image amid the thousands of spiritual entities, orbs, Bigfoots, etc., that I've just collected in this month alone. And it's quite a burden to know that all this is real. And so few people will hear you, will believe in you, will believe all sorts of other things that satisfy their world view, their own personal paradigm that somebody else has told them. It is not much fun. At the end of the day, there's not much pleasure, I should say. There's not much joy in the end of the day, knowing all that is going on around us, and that most people will just laugh at you when you actually know the truth and they don't. So anyways, in this howler, this ravine, I start filming things. Heads appearing out of the ground. Okay, I also start filming things around the edges of the cemeteries in the woodline. And I start filming heads. Now, I had already learned about pareidolia in my research leading up to Bigfoot. You know, when I do research something, I pretty much is what I focus on until I'm totally burned out on it, and then move on to the next thing. I'm a very linear guy, and not one of these guys that can juggle 20 different things. Just doesn't work. So here we have this image. You might have seen this image if you've been following Facebook pages that I have, or if the latest video that I did about fallen angels and Bigfoot. This is just some of the images that I decided just to make a compilation on. Or some of the entities that I filmed just that year alone. This is 17. This is taken in 2017. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about a Bigfoot nest. Now, you're probably not going to get a very good view of any of this, thanks to degradation in one generation after another generation of videos, of images, losing it. But this is a whole bunch of quote-unquote Bigfoot. Here's a baby Bigfoot. You can see the eye here and the big old eyebrow. This is one guy right here. You can see the dark eyes and the cone shape. This is one of the more famous ones that you can see of a head coming out of the winter in the winter time. Here's a clan, a group of them right here popping out. But his is just one of those. And if you could look, and I don't know if it's probably not even going to show up. And the more I magnify it, the more pixelated it gets, so the more you're going to lose. But if you can see it all, just see this dark images right here. They stick out like a sore thumb. And they're not plants. All right. Over here to the right of these masses right here of entities called Bigfoot is where that tree fell. So I start having all these weird experiences. I start seeing things. See if I can get this one up. And although the image comes from my friend Andy, who's got several videos, he's out east, and he's done research to prove that a lot of these entities have the connection with electricity power plants, and they feed off electricity. He did give me an image that I don't think was actually his, but he just shared me the image anyways. I can find the thing. And it's numerous times you guys have seen it. Hopefully you can see this. So this thing right here, okay? This is what a lot of people, I think they would call a fallen angel or something. I start seeing things like this in the sky. Of course, all I had was my cheap little camera. So every time I tried to take a picture of these things, I didn't get any good images. But I remember staring at these things in the sky one day in particular that was very profound. And I saw it it had to be a good 15 minutes as it went across the sky. And when you're judging it between the surface of the earth, or where I'm, the terrestrial plane where I'm standing, and where the clouds are, somewhere in between, knowing the clouds are really most likely no more than a mile high, so we're talking half a mile away. Well, half a mile away is not very far realistically, especially when you're looking at something going up in the sky. So, but it would still appear as something very small, obviously, but still, with my eyes, there I am seeing this thing, trying to take pictures of it. I remember even telling my mom about it. So, my goodness, things get super ramped up, super, what they call supernatural, right? Intense, in the sense that my, I don't want to say discernment, but that's part of it. But my senses are super heightened, and I'm starting to see things. I'm starting to see these spiritual entities manipulating leaves and branches in the trees. I notice that things are following me. I notice that I'm being more isolated. And, I'm with like my son and take care of my mom and all that kind of stuff. And in truth, nothing's changed the past 2 years. As far as, the family relations, it's probably you could pray for my mom. That'd be great, because she's supposed to have surgery yesterday, but they screwed up the medication. So it's now Monday. And so she's, for the first time in over 2 months or 3 months, she's not complaining about pain, but she's also all drugged up. But it's better. She needs that in order to be healed. So she's going to have the veins in both her legs scoped to get the plaque out if you want to have that foot healed. So anyways, back to this. And I'm sorry if this is, not very coherent. Wasn't actually planning on talking about me. I was planning on have you listen to the fascinating story of Bono, Russell. And you will like Bono. Bono was, like I said, becoming a very popular figure in the Bigfoot community and the cryptid community. And something happened. And I think he just woke up and he realized this was not what he and everybody else was saying it was. And his life started to have problems and things were falling apart. And he just said, to heck with it. And he's a believer in Jesus Christ. And in the end, you will hear another example of what freed people. And he agreed to join me on the show, not to entertain anybody, but to offer people a real answer. And there's a lot of folks out there that I care about that probably consider me an enemy, or hate me, or even hate Bono, don't like our position anymore. But we got to share it to them anyways, because, well, it's the right thing to do. Anyways, things like this, the image that you're seeing here, they're floating like this around. They're black and white, okay? They weren't like some craft, although these things, when they turn to their side and start spinning around, can turn into a craft-like thing. The last little video that I did, the first video I've done in over 9 months, as an image of a fallen angel 9/11, during 9/11. And, oh, darn it. We'll go here. Just give you an idea. This thing is an awful lot like the thing I'm going to show you now. But think about it, not fully converting like some transformer, more than meets the eye. So this is, of course, this gets very pixelated because it's all blown up now, but there's a wing right there, a wing right there, a wing right there, another wing right there. There's a wing that's folded right there. There's the head of it. This is, if you watch the video, you'll see that this thing is very similar to the other thing that we looked at. And when these fallen angels are on their sides, and they start spinning and make it look like you're seeing flying saucer. Or they can cloak themselves, quote unquote, cloak themselves like a ball of light, blah, 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 blah. So I'm seeing things in the sky. I start taking pictures in my local parks. I'm coming home and looking at these pictures. I'm finding entities, and they're not pareidolia. They're not pareidolia. And I have videos in the past that you can look at it and see. And there's all sorts of high strangeness. And these things are not just in one park, they're in every park that I go to. And we're not talking that you had to go deep into the woods, or that we live out in Timbuktu. I live in a suburb of Toledo on the border of Michigan. And the north of me is a bunch of cornfields, but in the south of me is the city. I'm kind of like you say on the edge. In fact, I am not even kind of, I actually am on the edge of the city and farmland and country. So, and I'm living in a region where there should not be, quote unquote, forest giants, maybe grassmen, maybe dogmen, blah, blah, blah. During this time, too, which probably a little prior to that, I'm interacting with guys like Jerry Klein and Douglas and Karen. I can't remember their names now, down in Mississippi. And, of course, M.K. Davis. M.K. Davis is totally insistent on that that it's a flesh and blood creature. He starts sending me videos. I'm starting to see entities. I'm breaking down these things. I don't even have any good software, but I start breaking these things down anyways. Somehow I'm seeing things, and no matter what anybody else clumsily and naively says that they are a pareidolia, you know, you might want to clearly. The people that are claiming that it's pareidolia are not the sharpest tools in the shed to begin with. And secondly, they don't realize that pareidolia is something that the average human being experiences anyways when you see faces in imagery or in branches. This is a well-known fact. And also the pareidolia is simply a symptom of another psychological disorder, and it is not a disorder in itself. So when people say, "Oh, that's pareidolia," you know, and then you're like, "Well, then you define it," and they say it's just you're seeing faces in a picture. That's basically the same statement, or you could say that same definition about a family portrait. That's how thoughtful the reasoning has been about throwing that thing out. So anyways, I know I'm experiencing things. I know I'm seeing things with naked eye. I know now I'm capturing things on film. This is this summer, right? Now, something strange. I remember it was a very bizarre, hot and humid day like today. It was a Friday night. I had went back to the cemetery, not the one that had the Bigfoot nest, but another one. where there was a ravine. And because I was filming things, and one of the things I discovered and I saw was a black head poking out, piercing out of the edge of the ravine howler on the other side of 10 Mile. It's just probably getting confusing, but there's two howlers, one on the south side of 10 Mile that runs through downtown, and then there's one on the north side that runs through downtown. And it turns out that this particular howler, I'm about an eighth of a mile away from, and the other one I'm a mile away from, at best. Probably less than a mile. So I saw this head, this black head. I know what's going on. Remember this. This black head just started manifesting at the edge of the tree lines and where the cemetery is. I was sitting on a branch, and there I was talking to God and thinking of Jesus, and I was also talking to these things, not knowing what I was dealing with. Getting very cruddy, hopelessly hopelessly useless information coming from the quote-unquote Bigfoot community, although they blindly think that they actually are telling the truth about anything. It's the only thing they were ever doing and still doing today is storytelling. So anyways, this black head starts to materialize at the edge of the woods. And I said, I am not going to run away from this. I'm standing my ground. If these things are real and they've been around here all this time, I'm standing my ground. I ain't going to be running around running scared. This had eventually dematerialized, and no longer was there. Very weird. Remember it. And I remember how the atmosphere around the whole place, the whole area, and it was greater than just simply intense, dense humidity, because also at the same time there was a summer solar eclipse happening in 2017. And along with this solar eclipse happening, me starting to see things, there just seemed to be this spiritual density in the atmosphere. I mean, you could cut it with a knife, figuratively speaking. I mean, you knew something was different. And but I didn't know what was really going on. I started taking all sorts of weird pictures. I started to get images of shadow people on the edge there between the cemetery and the howler, the ravine. And the north ravine is quite deep. And it probably goes down a good 60 feet. Whereas the south one at best is, 15 yards of gentle slope, in which I had one of the most intense encounters on that side. Anyways, Friday night, I decided to go back to that same location where I saw the head. And we're just thinking about these young group of 20-something, late teen, 20-something boys with cameras and all that come running out of this ravine. Now, in the meantime, I'm talking about this on my YouTube channel and on what is that one thing that talks you? I'm sharing this with folks like Kate Hansen and others, and of course, I don't know, with MK, he knew he knew there was high strangeness, spiritual things going on, but did not want to talk about that at all. It's almost like he was strictly, deadly afraid of it. I also think that because he was interacting with shamans and medicine women and men and witch doctors and witches, because there's a lot of them in the Bigfoot community, whether they want to admit it or not. And I'm not condemning them for being that. Their own actions will do that for themselves. I don't want that to be the case. It just will be. Gosh. Poor MK Davis. Anyways, there's a lot of tragic people in the Bigfoot community. Very tragic. Anyways, these kids come running out of the ravine with their cameras in a place that no one ever is. And I go, hey, man, what's going on? And they go, oh, we're just making a movie. And says, you guys see anything? He said, yeah. Then they start talking this weird stuff because, you know, the spiritual thing. They start using other people and they say, who's this weird dude and all that? And I'm like, whatever, man. So I go across the main street known as Monroe Street, running east to west to the north side of 10 Mile Creek, which is the larger creek. And I'm walking around and looking, and I'm talking, and I'm doing a lot of the stupid things that Kate Hansen told me to do because I'm stupid and naive. At 49 years of age, you'd think I would have enough common sense, but I never experienced all this stuff before, at least not knowingly. No one ever said, oh, Mike, you know, you've been under generational curses, you have familiar spirits, and the witches have been using that against you and your family all your life. You know, what it really meant to have a ancestor who was a shaman, a Cherokee shaman, medicine man, etc., etc. Well, it just goes on and on, but it's just... Anyways, so I'm walking around the North Bank, and now I'm about 100 yards max, which is interesting. It's always about 100 yards, 75, 100 yards, 50 yards when you have one of these. It's always one of these physical manifestations that happens. I don't know if it's just to get you so that you keep on looking or whet your appetite or your curiosity, you know. But I see something travel 100 plus miles going west to east in less than 3 seconds, and it's light brown, it's bent over, and at first I thought it was somebody riding you know, like a racing bike of 10 speed, 20 speed, but whatever, because we do have some races. There's some bike races around here and that kind of thing. We just had one actually a couple weeks ago where they closed down a big part of downtown or my area so these guys can tour around the street and down the hill and all that kind of jazz. The more and more I think about this thing, it's super hot like today. It's like 7:30 at night. And don't hold me on exact time period. All I know is it's getting just close to dark. Nobody in their right mind would be riding a hoodie or be wearing a hoodie in this kind of weather. And this thing was a lot larger than I wanted to admit. And it was leaning forward. Now, I didn't see the whole body. Imagine that. So many sightings, you never see the whole body. You only see the upper part. But I see this brownish, tan thing just go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 by. And then over 100 yards like that. Why did I assume him? First, it might have been a bike rider because there was a trail about 20, 30 yards south of the creek. But no biker could have done that. No bicyclist could have done that. Nobody could have done that. And nobody in their right mind would be wearing a hoodie like that. And this thing was, but it was leaned over like, so you might think a biker would, you know, somebody's riding at 10 speed, racing at 10 speed. Super hot. I would not be surprised at all that I have another one of my wonderful supernatural experiences. It's a perfect day and evening for it. Anyways, so I'm walking around and there's like these dudes over at the local hotel. A nice hotel, I'll just leave the name out of it. And there's these dudes partying, and also it couldn't have been a Friday night. It had to be Saturday night. Now that I think about it, because the part of the downtown was just very small, little downtown. One of those, you know, those your traditional Midwestern downtowns was closed because they have live music and that kind of thing. And they have, you know, weekend parties, just basically. From where I sit, you can see it. You could see it if you really want to see it. So it's like several hundred yards away. That's all it is. Anyways, so it had to be a Saturday. No, it could have been a Friday too. They could have had 2 Fridays too. So yeah, I don't know. It must have been Friday. Anyways, these guys were in this parking lot, and I guess they were working on I guess we'll just say plumbing. I don't know if it was heating or air conditioning, whatever. And these guys, oh yeah, here's the other thing. So these guys, the other group of guys, a lot of them, several of them were, and there's nothing wrong with somebody being black, and there's nothing wrong with you having dreadlocks. I'm not judging you or anybody does. In fact, I wish I had hair nice enough to have dreadlocks, but I don't. But what's weird about that in the town I live in, there's not that. There are more dudes that night with dreadlocks than the number of people possibly in this town who could have dreadlocks that are African American. So it was really bizarre. So the one group of guys were coming up a ravine with cameras. Oh, by the way, this is a group of people too. This is all happening after once again, I'm openly sharing this on TalkShoe and on YouTube with people who obviously in the day do have certain connections and do know where I'm located at. Now, whether they themselves are involved with that or the spiritual realm, the demonic spiritual realm, has used that at that time as an excuse to mess with me, I cannot tell. So yeah, so Bono will be next Tuesday, and then Life of a Demonic is going to be on my show hopefully as well. He's agreed to do the interview. Anyways, he's got some very interesting images that he's capturing through video technology of, I think might have some validity that he's actually catching demonic spirits that are invested in electronics. Anyways. So then this hotel in the parking lot, these guys are having like they're throwing around a ball and a frisbee, and they are having some big old, pig roast or something like that. That never happens. It never happens. And why would they just get? And there's more dudes with dreadlocks and young, healthy guys in their they're early to mid 20s. And I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? You guys see anything strange around here? It's like, oh no. And and I'm walking around with my cane, and you could hear them saying, nothing strange that we've seen is you. They're trying to be cool with me, but they're wanting me gone. So, and they also the kind of weird. There's a guy walking around with a cane in the field and around the edge of the woods and talking to people in the driveway, and or in the parking lot, asking them if they see anything strange. Both parties, with dudes with dreadlocks, which you might say, well, that's not a big deal. And maybe your part of the country, it's not a big deal. But in my town, they stand out like a sore thumb. Not that there's anything wrong. There's just not too many black dudes with dreadlocks in the town I live in. Just the way it is. But that night there was. On both sides, and it's a very centralized location. After me opening up my big mouth and actually sharing location of where the stuff is going on. Okay? But it gets even stranger that night. So I leave. I know I've seen something. I'm trying to process what I just went through. All right. See, am I just nuts? Am I going nuts? Am I really the strange one here? And I end up going back to that parking lot of that hotel. And there's an elderly man, a white guy, that had like a 911 license plate. And I went up to him and I go, hey man, what's up with the 911 license plate? And he goes, what? Are you talking about 411? And I looked at him and I go, what do you mean 411? Oh, I don't know, that's not what I meant. Now, none of this could be anything more than the spiritual realm, the demonic realm, messing with me, okay? It's going to simply be that. And they use us as tools. We're useful tools for them to mess with each other. Or somebody who had been listening to the conversations I was having with M.K. Davis recorded, and Kate Hansen, and Duke, and a bunch of other people back that time. And as I was sharing, what was kind of going on around there, that they decided to show up themselves. Or maybe something supernatural was happening and somebody did go missing. Or was there people practicing witchcraft and sorcery and Satanism, as is quite common in all our towns? Or could a demon be in my fish tank? Or manifesting in my fish tank? Or, sorry about that, but there's clearly something looking. They sure do love water. So anyways, let me go to this. I know it's got to be following me. It's got to be like the most screwed up, effed up, whacked out thing. I know it's got to say, this guy's got to be nuts. This guy's got to be crazy. This guy's got to have his head so full. I mean, I understand if you don't believe a thing I said. So anyways, this guy brings up 411. And I'm thinking to myself, what are the odds of anybody, complete stranger in my town, nobody I know, nobody I even had any contact with, bring up 411, which basically 411 for most part is one of those things that in the Bigfoot and cryptid community there is, and Pollock and all that, but the rest of the world's not paying attention to 411. They are slowly becoming more aware of it. But back in 2017 it was a small minority of folks that were paying attention to 411. Why was this guy, of all people, bring this up to me? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it doesn't make any sense unless there's something high, some spiritual and strangeness going on. A strangeness going on. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. Nothing happens by coincidence. There's no coincidence at all. The more you live your life, the more you realize there is no such thing as a coincidence. It's just a way to rationalize and forget what exactly you've been going through. Where is that? You got to be kidding me. I just took the image of it. See, was that? Now it's closing its eye. I'll probably never find the damn thing. Yeah, see if we can do it again. Two E. Was it 3? So this guy's talking to me, and he brings up 411, and I bring it up right back to him. You said 411? And he goes, oh, no, that's not what I was talking about. And he walks away after he was really cordial to me and very polite. But the moment he said 411 and I caught him in it, it was like, uh-oh, I better walk away. And this is a guy who obviously had some kind of ranking in some kind of, whether it's the FBI or the police. I don't think it's the police. I think it had to be FBI or something else, CIA. And for him to just walk away from me, a guy in a cane who's got nothing, the hold over him is nothing I could possibly do to him. I mean, who am I? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel but apparently it turns out that if you actually believe in Jesus and you actually have some kind of and if he blesses you with just some kind of a simple anointing, and it's usually the case, don't ever buy into anybody who says, oh, I got some anointing and give me money. I can tell you right now, they don't have any anointing. But shit. Now his eyes open. It can't be. There's a frickin' spirit in my fish tank. And every time I take a picture of it and try to put it keeps messing with me. I can't ever figure out where to put it. You gotta be kidding me. It just closed his eyes again. Just closed his eyes. I'm gonna see if I can show this to you. You're not gonna believe, and no one's gonna believe me. I'd be lucky to find where these things are at after I just. It is a good day to have some spiritual eye strangeness go on. So, probably the reason why Bono's not supposed to be doing the show with me today. This old man in the parking lot of this hotel parking lot, he's bringing up stuff like 411. How does he know that I know anything about Bigfoot research? And you're about to see something, and you probably won't be able to see much of it. Well, I hope you do. Wow, the most stunning of imagery and vision. Okay, I'm showing you an image. Right here, I hope you can see it. There's an eyeball. There's the eye. There's the pupil. Right? Let's take it just as of course. Now look. Same thing. Eyeballs closed. Closed. No more. What the heck's that? All I got is 2 of them? Oh well. I don't know where the other 2 are, but you can see the difference. One has an eyeball. It's manifesting. I don't think it's in my fish tank, but it's using the fish tank, the glass and the water as a source. So you see the eyeball? That's not a fish. Now it's closed. Excuse me, no, it won't let me do that. What the heck's going on? Open. And it won't let me open it? Yeah, we're up for a wild ride tonight. I am. It's going to have a wild ride tonight, and I'm sure a few others of you. If you look at this week, we were talking to our new friend, Kim. I'm not saying that name right. I know. Sorry. I'm so bad at saying names. So bad saying names. So bad. Remembering names. First of all, I want to see what's going on here. I want to know why. See if it opens now. Okay, you see. See how it's not so dark? As far as the eyeball goes? Now you can see it. Come on. I can't like show it now? You can see how his eyeball is open. Now you can see the iris. Anyways. I know you probably think I'm nuts. Anyway, I don't really care at this point. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. Where was I at this point? So it was a night like tonight. It was a week like this week. Is time period like this when there was lunar and solar eclipses. And our friend, I probably should just keep on using the YouTube channel anyways. From Life's a Mirage YouTube channel. Her birthday on Tuesday is nothing but a ton of orbs. I mean, we're not even, I mean, it was an ocean of orbs in her front yard. I got a thing going on right here, right now. If you think that's not, you don't think I'm legit about it, let's see if we can find this. Stop sharing. Get back into my little place. And there's the spot right there. And you can see that, and that's fascinating. If we had a way to record that. Well, we do have a way to record that, don't we? Maybe we can go back to that. I can chop that out and blow it up and slow it down and see what happens. Anyways, some dude out of the blue, for no reason at all, that some guy would bring up 411 to a complete stranger like me. Very abnormal. They got dudes running around with dreadlocks and this kind of stuff. Well, I guess what I'm getting at with those guys is that these were well, people talk about stalkers and government agents. I think that's exactly what happened that day. Now, it's not been something that's been a problem in my life. There's not a lot of people stalking me or doing anything like that. But that day, that week, that night, there definitely was. And there was serious strangeness going on. You could cut with a knife. And we're not talking about humidity. We're talking about the electricity in the air, how time itself slowed down, how it was just weird. One of the weirdest nights of my life, to be honest with you. And I've had some pretty weird nights. So for me to say that means something. Anyways, actually, that was my very first sighting of Bigfoot, and not my last. Was that Friday, that week, I should say, that week. And I kind of jumbled up when I started seeing the Bigfoot in the ravine in the nest, because it's actually, I think it happened a week or two after that, but I can't remember now. It's in that same time period, that summer. So actually, I saw so much that summer, I don't know. It's hard to keep it all together. Saw things in the sky, people call UFOs. I believe strongly that they were fallen angels. I saw things in my pictures and when I was taking photographs that I never saw for the first time in my life. The hundreds of pictures taken of my son and everything else you take. Start seeing things in my picture and photographs. Start seeing things. Damn, dude. That's so freaky. That is so freaking. Excuse my language. It's so freaky. So, my very first time going out Bigfoot field research, doing Bigfoot field research, within less than a half a minute, I'm under a teepee structure. Within that weekend, you got within that time period on a weekend, I'm interacting with dudes that are never, ever, ever in my town. In particular, young black dudes with dreadlocks. And you can tell that they were not your average Joe. You know what I mean? They were good looking dudes and they were well groomed, and you could tell that they were more than what they were presenting themselves to be. And then so an old man who's got a license plate that's got 911 comes up to me and mentions 411. And when I said 411, he said, "Oh no, never mind," and he walks away. I see this dark black head manifest materializing from the tree line. It doesn't fully manifest, doesn't quite do it, probably because I'm talking about Jesus, and goes back into the tree line. I got this big sucker thing, and whatever this thing was in brown, it was leaned over. It looked like a biker in super hot, humid summer humidity and super hot, wearing a tan hoodie, covering 100 yards in less than 3 seconds, or count to 3,000. And it had to be, based on what I seen in the distance, it had to be over 12 feet tall. It had to be way over 12 feet tall. Because a 6-foot guy leaning forward on a bike, you wouldn't be able to see it above the brush line that's between that path and the creek. So for me to see the back of this thing means that this thing, it was huge, monstrosity, like a forest giant of some sort. That was one of the most confusing nights of my life. No, I wasn't on drugs that I can think of. No, it wasn't. Well, it definitely wasn't on anything. I don't do heavy drugs outside of my own medication for MS. So, I didn't even drink. I didn't even want to drink. Of course, I shouldn't drink anyways with the MS. And it just gets weirder from there. I'm talking during this time to Kat Hansen and doing interviews. And every time I'm doing interviews with Kat Hansen, things are manifesting from the windows in the trees, the tree line. And you're seeing leaves contorting and all this. So why is that? I think part of it is being that she is a it's funny. Anyways, there's a sister in Christ that's out in California that used to be a professional wrestler, female wrestler, and she posted one of her youthful, seductive photos of her when she was fit and had the makeup and everything, and she's pretty hot looking. And yeah, I imagine there's a lot of guys that would be turned on, and I imagine I would have been too if I wasn't 51 and I already know better. But anyways, hopefully someday she'll join us on the show and share her amazing story from being a woman of the world and the wrestling world to come to know the Lord. Interesting in its own right. I'm sure I forgot a lot of things that happened that week. I should write a book. Well, let me rephrase it. I should journal it. I don't know if I really should write another book. Does the world need another book? Probably not. But journal it so I don't forget everything that happened that summer. It was intense that summer. You got to remember there was this solar eclipse going at the exact same time. The weird things going on. People are starting to realize something about Rahu and Ra and Rahu and what's going on about causing these solar eclipses, and that it's not adding up to what they've been telling us from NASA and our textbooks. Nor should they be telling you the truth about anything. If you're the sorcerers, if you're the rulers, and you're the rulers of darkness, and you don't want to you don't want to lose your power, the last thing you want to do, is give your slaves ammunition to conquer you. Now, I probably did a terrible job of sharing the first part of my journey when it comes to Bigfoot. I'm sure of this. I'm sure I missed a few other things. I know I missed a few of the moments of sleep paralysis during this time period. This time period. And I noticed it happening again, too, with lately, every time I get involved with Bigfoot, my son comes running to me. What's up, Dad? I didn't say anything, Chase. I thought you said something. I thought I heard you say something. And during this time period, he is doing that same thing. What's up, Dad? I didn't say anything, Chase. So you got these familiar spirits all around us, and they like to mess with you. They like to mess with your kids. But they've always been messing with you. And so if you hide from them, it's not gonna improve anything. In fact, by challenging them, exposing them, now you have a chance to battle them. It just gets stranger and stranger. Honestly, it gets stranger and stranger, doesn't it? The more you follow Jesus Christ, the more stranger your life's going to get. And your life, by the way, is going to be a million times more satisfying and fuller than anything else out there. It's not an easy road. So that's my attempt for the beginning of a long journey. A long journey in that year of experiencing Bigfoot and all that comes around in it. So let's see if there's anything that Brad Phillips, thank you for being there. I encountered a Bigfoot. Was attempting to enter our campsite in the middle of night. It left when I commanded it to leave in Jesus' name. Oh, by the way, a very well-known Bigfoot researcher admitted that Bigfoot entered into his house and he saw it in his house. Now, there's a lot of people in the Bigfoot community that try to tell you that's impossible. And I'm saying, I've been trying to tell people over and over again, this is the case, that there are several accounts of this. And here's a well-known Bigfoot researcher that admits that that's exactly what happened in his life. So who knows? Maybe we'll get to someday to him sharing that. Dustin, Crypto, PS, that's right. Thank you, Captain Hook. Thank you. Dustin. So Dustin was like the very first guy in the beginning of 2017 that I interviewed. And, there's a lot of these guys, just like when it comes to a lot of the flat earth leadership that's being presented to us, who have military backgrounds and have acting backgrounds. That happens in the Bigfoot community and in the flat earth community. By the way, Bigfoot is real, and what we live on looks awfully flat to me. But it's so an effective way of when it comes to social engineering and manipulating the masses. Is to confuse the hell out of them. It's to take the Hegelian dialect and then shatter that into 1,000 pieces so you have no idea where you're going. So, by the wisdom and grace of God, Him giving you a simple, and then one of the most challenging things, anyways, to do, and that is to believe on Him that His only begotten Son paid for their sins. He didn't ask you to go to church. He didn't ask you to pay your tithing. He didn't ask you to be a deacon. He didn't ask you to play church or any of that kind of stuff. If you look what He really asked you to do, He asked you to do a few simple steps and then have abiding faith in Jesus Christ, what God has done for you, believe in the words of Jesus Christ, and although you're going to go through this physical plane to the bitter end in death, you got to remember, regardless, you and I know innately, even if no one ever told us that there's something in us that lives forever, our spirit, our soul, and where do you want to be? You want to be with God? Or with these things that like to pretend they're Bigfoot? It's interesting. Matthew Johnson, he has this people that come to his house and they sleep on the cots and they get touched by these spirits and all that, and they believe to be touched by Bigfoot. And this one guy's interacting with them, and he hears some mind speak because he wants to open up his eyes and see these things that are touching him. And they're like, "Oh no, you don't want to see us. We don't look anything like what you think we look like." He's damn right. That demon, that entity is damn right. Bigfoot don't look like anything what most people think it looks like. It's even more weirder. And it ain't just one entity. So, we got a lot of things to cover. It's interesting. They had just about a half a dozen people. Well, Joni was still there. Thank you for being there, Joni. Tinfoil Thoughts, thank you for being there. Hopefully, if you're still there, and thank you. And if not, you come by. Again, nice wee Bannon. I hope that nice wee Bannon. Thank you for joining me. Captain Hook, of course, as always. Always you should talk. Been busy this week with my mom in the hospital. And of course this thing. So a lot of stuff to cover. I mean, I didn't even talk to you about things like when I interacted with that Crow Indian and had that thing happen. And that big old black thing crawling up the ravine. Or that day when me and my son were attacked, and exactly all that happened that day. And then those 3 days. Oh, yeah, and then all the times that I saw these things popping their heads out of the ravines. I didn't share with you any of the times about here, tree knocks, boulders being thrown, somebody saying Mike to me long before. I mean, I'm not talking about Mike Patterson and him talking to his Bigfoot. I'm talking about something saying Mike when I go to the front porch. That samurai chatter that these Bigfoot do, and having it in the side yard. It just goes on. It goes on. Thanks, Captain Hook. It goes on and it goes on. And I'm glad that I walked away from it for a year or more. But I haven't even done a video of these. We realize this. Like one of my own videos until this past couple of weeks. I had a hard time even doing this 9-10 minute video of my own. How to put it together. Yeah, it's been a while. And I really don't want to go down this road, but as we're talking with Bono, I said, "You listen, this is not about us. This is about all the other people that are going down the wrong road, and they need to be told the truth about it, and they need to know that they're not going crazy, that Jesus is real, that what's happening to him is real, and mainstream the Bigfoot community is not there to help them, but to exploit them and they have them have their story told over the place. And once they have their story told over the place, they're going to forget you like yesterday's meal. I mean, that's it. There ain't nothing that these people can do for you. There's nothing that I can do for you. Only Jesus can do this for you. And then as time goes on, and if these things become more and more real, and people become more and more interactive about this stuff, more and more of these things are going to happen. At the bare minimum, more and more people are going to come clean about what they're going through. And when you're in a phase in humanity where, justified sin, and everything that's going on culturally and what's going on with everyone, this is this ebb and flow thing. As people become more sinful, the spiritual darkness around us becomes more greater. The more people kind of try to be in line with the Heavenly Father and His Lord and Savior and our Son, His Son, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the more there seems to be a diminishing. But the spiritual darkness is never going to go away. So, anyways, we talk more about that. I'm tired. I've been rambling on for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's not. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you. I don't deserve the 6 of you, 7 of you, 8 of you, and the rest of you that will watch this. I don't deserve any of it. So thank you. Thank you for spending your time with me. May God bless you sincerely. 10,000 times more than He ever blessed me. I mean that. I hope you have the greatest life there ever is, and most importantly, you have a great relationship with God.